Thanks, Phoenix Light, for sponsoring this week's interview. The best design comes from the actual needs of users. Phoenix takes providing mobile lighting products with excellent performance as the goal and born for harsh environments as its mission. Never forget where you started and your mission can be accomplished. Patrons can enjoy 10% and all you lovely listeners get 5% off with the code TNT5. Pop over to www.phoenixlight.co.uk. Hello and welcome to the Tea and Trails podcast, guest edition. Woo! I'm Eddie Sutton.
Time, Gary.
Is that not going to become a thing? No.
I liked it.
I like it. Sparky.
I never know which way the script's going to go.
Who we got on this week? We got a big hitter this week.
This week we've got an endurance titan. Yeah, Sean straddled the world of endurance and, the wider community too, with projects being featured on the Discovery Channel and Amazon Prime. It was such a scoop to share an hour with Sean. We hope you enjoy this week's conversation. If you're wondering which Sean it is the one and only Sean Conway. Sean Conway is a British-Zimbabwean ultra-endurance athlete known for pushing the limits of human endurance. He has set multiple world records, including completing 105 Ironman triathlons in 105 days, becoming the first person to swim the length of Britain and achieving the fastest self-supported cycle across Europe. His adventurous spirit has led him to complete a 4,200-mile triathlon, cycle around the world and run a marathon in every UK national park. There's more to this intro, Sean, but before we get into that, I'm just curious, do you ever fancy, these are all like self-propelled and phenomenal endurance achievements, but do you ever fancy, I don't know, going on something like, is like an infrastructure, so you do, say, the Spine Race or the Northern Traverse, where you do the huge miles, you do the huge challenge, but the little checkpoints are waiting for you every day or two?
Historically, no. I've always sort of said if it's less than 2 weeks long, I'm sort of really not interested. And I used to get I've had to change my answer. I was like, if it's less than 2 weeks, it's too short for me. And then everyone shouts at me and I get in trouble with the internet. It's more accurate, really. And now I say it's too fast for me. So for me to do the Spine Race is like asking Mo Farah to run the 100 meters. Look, he could do it, but he's not going to be very good, is he? And I'm the same. Like, I could do it, but I'm not going to be very good. That said, as I'm getting a bit older and with the kids getting to an age where, I'm really more involved with them because they're 5 or they're 6 and 3 now, it's harder for me to justify the big, long stuff, right? A, because I wanted to be with the kids. They miss me, I miss them. B, I've scratched a lot of itches doing the long, long stuff. I've still got some very long things in the pipeline, which I'm very excited about, which I can't talk about. I really want to talk about, but I can't. But it's super exciting. That has led me to sort of reconsider. I was going to say shorter, but again, the internet hates me when I say that. The faster races.
Why does the internet hate you for when you say if it's less than 2 weeks long?
It's a bit belittling, isn't it? I'm like, the spine race. If I say, the spine race is too short for me, everyone's like, shut up, mate. What are you talking about? It's bloody, it's really difficult, which it is. And
you're not saying that though. You're not saying it's not difficult, are you? You're just saying
no. Exactly. Yeah, but people sort of take it the wrong way sometimes.
I get the criticism because I'm a mum that like if I said I'm going away for that length, I'd get the what about your children? I always get that on long races. Who's looking after your children? And I'm like, their dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I never get that. That's bizarre. Do you ever get that, Sean? I never get that.
Well, I think most people feel really sorry for Caroline.
She's probably like, get him out. Get him out. He's been home too long.
When I did the 105 Ironmans, there was an overriding unanimous decision that Caroline had a harder job than me. You think 105 Ironmans is hard, try solo parenting while you're self-employed with 2 kids who aren't at school yet. Hats off to Caroline's. But back to the question, I am starting to get excited about stuff that takes a couple of days of my time. I think it'll be a very new skill for me to learn. I am quite excited to work on being a bit quicker because I'm good on the sleep deprivation, I'm good on the logistics, I'm good on lots of things. I've patented, well, not patented, but I've come up with the 10.5 pillars of endurance,
incredible.
So you've got all these 10.5 pillars, which I talk about when, if I go and do speaking and things like that. And I'm good at most of those. I would just have to change them and tweak them to do things that are 48 hours or 3 days or 4 days or 5 days. And I'm getting excited, and you know what? The UK has so many amazing, I'm going to do inverted commas here, shorter races. You've got the spine. Okay, it's not short, but you know what I mean. You've got the tunnel, the 200-mile run and a 1-mile tunnel. And the same guy does the bridge. So you can run it back and forth on the Severn Bridge. You've got the line. So you run the Greenwich Meridian from Norfolk down to the South Coast, right through London. That's 300 miles. You've got race across Scotland, 215 miles. Then you've got the bike. You've got the GB Duro, which is incredible. You've got the Wild Atlantic Way around Ireland. So there's actually a lot of these really amazing under a week long races in the UK. And actually, I am starting to sort of get excited by them. I need to change my training, but I sort of can't do it now because I've got this little one really big thing coming. But yeah, it's just there's so much out there, and the cool thing is there's something for everyone. There's less things for me. If you say find a race or something that's longer than 10 days, 2 weeks, there's very few of them out there. So that's why I've sort of had to invent my own, really, that's basically my job. I'm a non-professional sportsman, although I'm sort of a professional sportsman, if you know what I mean. Whereas basically I've got to come up with a record and then win at it. So, which is hard because it was too easy. No one's bothered. It was too difficult. You won't get sponsored. Yeah. So it's fun. I thrive on that sort of stuff. I was going to ask, that's one of my questions actually. What was your job description? I had to fill out a form the other day for my daughter, and Eddie's going to laugh at this. I nearly put broadcaster. I just couldn't think what else I did, and I just put self-employed in the end. If you had to fill out a form, Sean, what would it be? Well, it's changed over time, so I now just put athlete. I'm an ultra endurance athlete. I was classed as an adventurer for ages, and I sort of didn't really question people, but I also thought it was a bit like arty-farty. I'm an adventurer. It's like it was unrelatable. Like, what is that? No one really understood. Because in the world of adventure, you've got sort of exploration on one end, which doesn't really there's no world records to it most of the time. There's a physical element to it, but you can have rest days, and it's exploring and discovery and maybe scientific and that sort of thing. And then on the far end, you've got sort of the super ultra endurance athletic side of things, and then you got a whole range in the middle. I've always shifted towards the athletic side of adventure. So some of my stuff has had an adventure element to it, but there's always been an athleticism to it, like swimming the length of Britain, cycling around the world, trying to get all those records. And then with the Ironman, there was almost no adventure in it. Zero, actually, because it was just athleticism. That's 105 Ironmans in 105 days, same route. It's all about science and the 10.5 pillars, really. And then the next one will move back. The next long big one will move sort of more towards the adventure side, not quite in the middle, still very, very athletic. So that's where I've hovered in the world of adventure. Really, I'm, as I said, a basic and ultra or super ultra. I don't know, whatever's above ultra. But that's me, ultra endurance athlete 2.0. That's sort of where I've hovered. And that's where I'm just the best version of me, basically. The best version of me is someone who's chasing something very difficult. You're going to be cold, wet, miserable, hungry and tired, and it's going to take weeks and months long. And then finally, if I do get out the other end, that sense of achievement is something that I just wish more people in the world got to experience, basically. Playing the long game. None of these short-term wins. It's all about playing the long game, going out there, trying something that's going to take you 2 years to plan for and months to complete. That's something that I don't think many people get to experience, that whole process. And I wish more people did, really.
How do you even explain that? I get asked that when I have to go back to the school gates after doing something mega, and other parents go, why did you do you cannot explain that feeling it gives you of completing such a challenge that you don't get anywhere else in life. There is nothing else from coming face to face with yourself, which you must have done numerous times through the same event, seeing the same, every day you face yourself and that brain going, you can't do it, and you going, but I'm going to do it. And There's nowhere in life that you can nowadays. We just don't get that going to Sainsbury's.
Yeah, I mean, historically, I guess, we used to get chased by lions and have to run
get it every day.
2 marathons to catch a dinner. I really believe humans have to do hard things.
Me too.
I think it's so important. Everyone's heart is different. My heart is different to someone else's heart, and I can find something that takes 2 weeks long probably easy, but I'll find the spine race much harder than
park run. I'm never going to park run.
I would much rather run 50k than a fast 5k, honestly. Oh, I can't do it. I just can't do it. It's actually annoying. Like, my wife's like, Sean, why don't you just go out and train more than people expect me just to be like training every day, but my problem is I don't want to get out of bed for less than a marathon. So it's like, I mean, I do because I still enjoy it, but the motivation for me to go and run 5k is almost zero. I'm like, what's the point? Like, if you say, Sean, you're running 50k tomorrow, I'm like, brilliant. Game
Great. What a day. What a day. I was thinking today on my run how long it would take me to warm up to run a 5k. I was like, I reckon it would take me 2 or 3 hours to actually move my body to be able to fast. Gary's really fast. But you're smoking fast. You just put your vapor flies on and go.
I do worry sometimes, people who are just entering into the sport, and especially now we are in this era of like Arctic Ultra, Spine Arctic Ultra. We just spoke to somebody the other week about that, and then the Spine race, that it seems to push the envelope all the time. And I just did a race at the weekend. It was 23 miles. I had an absolute blast. There is something for everybody, but we do seem to give a bit more value to the super duper long stuff.
Yeah, I do. I prefer it. I've just done Land's End John O'Groats for the 7th time, and it's the 3rd time I've cycled it. And it took me 7 days to get into it, if I'm honest. And then the last 2 days, I'm like, right, I'm ready. And then we're finished. And I was like, oh, damn it. I need to sort of turn around and do it again. And I remember having that exact same feeling when I ran across Iceland. It was 9 days. And I sort of only got into my groove in the last couple of days. And then I was at the end, I was like, oh, you almost, for me anyway, I almost need to sort of run across Iceland to plan to run across Iceland, to
do your park run. You just like, I'll be there on Saturday. I'll start.
So, but I'm enjoying park run. I do the Sunday one with the boys, the 2k one, and it's fun.
Are they blitzing you yet? Are they like out the gun? You're like, whoa, guys.
No chance. I smoke them.
I give you a few years until they start looking. Mine look back at me and like, Mum, we thought you were a trail runner. And I'm like, yeah, but my trails they're not 2k. And it was like, how fast can you run a mile? And I'm like, not as fast as you.
Yeah, no, I do take my sister-in-law's brother runs for a French 10k team in France, and I think he does like a 32-minute 10k.
No park run with him.
No, but I took him on a trail run that was only about 10 miles maybe, but it was really like up and down. You couldn't.
You've got it. You've got what to do with the kids. Yes. You'll be like, yes, we're doing 3 Munros today, kids.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be it.
My son, he's just got into Muay Thai, and he asked me to do sparring with him in the garden on Sunday. He's a little bit taller than me. He's a lot meatier than me, muscle-wise. Oh, it was the worst thing I ever did, Eddie. It was like literally, he punched me once and he took me off my feet. It was terrible. I just saw this smile on his face, this little smile. It's like, he won't go running though. He will not go running with me.
Yeah, I bet.
Carry on with the intro. You've got. I like the next question.
Oh yeah, Conway has also written several books and starred in documentaries about his challenges. We do this podcast. People hear our voices in their ears every week. Sometimes we do get recognised in a very niche environment, say at a trail run. But if you've done a TV documentary, Netflix or Amazon, like literally, I suppose you'll struggle going to a pub at some points. What is that like, straddling the relationship with being a celebrity?
Yeah. When you said the celebrity word, I cringed straight away. So it was an interesting sort of journey on that. So, I was a school portrait photographer. I sold my business for £1 when I was 30, and then I went and cycled around the world. I tried to get that record, but I got run over in America, carried on. came home, skint, 31 years old, signed on the dole, lived in a council house with my mum, and tried to get work. So I was sort of very just under the radar, just trying to survive. Like, I was in survival mode, just doing everything just to buy food, living in a basement, 1-bedroom council house with mum. And then eventually I was just like, I just need to do something again. And, when I cycled around the world, I got some sponsorships. I thought, well, let me try another thing. And that's when I thought of swimming the length of Britain. Doing that, my life changed overnight. Suddenly I went from just being a nobody, really, and pretty happy with that, to being on the front page of newspapers, and on the BBC World News did a live swimming, and I had 50 million people. Then I'm 2 days later, I'm on the One show sitting next to Jason Donovan, and people are
Gary's dream.
People are tweeting him going, Kylie's looking a bit hairy. So
I'd take that.
I know.
She's hot.
Yeah, it was all of a sudden I was then very recognized, and I'm recognizable anyway, with the beard and all that. So, and then straight after that, I landed up doing 2 Discovery Channel documentaries, and then a third one, which are now on Amazon, and then the third one is just on Amazon. Yeah, for a while it did get a bit mad. It as in, especially with the Discovery Channel stuff, because people just saw me as that bloke off telly for a couple of years, and then they just sort of didn't really care who I was or what I did. They just wanted a picture with that guy they'd seen on they genuinely didn't even know my name, but I was recognizable. I must add that every other ginger bloke with a beard also they thought I met loads of gingers with beards going like, mate, you know how many selfies I've done pretending to be you?
They're like, oh, he's a bit porky, a bit out of shape.
So there was a couple of years where it was still good, though. I mean, because it's a nice type. Like, everyone was really friendly and helpful and that. Yeah. Then when the Discovery stuff went, and I sort of chose to not do the sort of big mainstream TV stuff because of that, really. It's now it's lovely. It's lovely. As you say, I'm recognised within my circle of ultra endurance, people who swim, bike, run, or triathlon or Ironman. And everyone's amazing. I have zero sort of negative encounters with people at all now, which is amazing, and it's great. And then, my kids are still quite young. They don't really know what daddy does. They know I do exercising as my job. That's the thing. What's daddy's
what mine
job?
do as well.
Daddy's job is exercising. And they know I've written books because I keep all my books in my downstairs toilet. So they know that I've written books, but they don't really understand. And then every now and then someone will come up and chat to me and go, oh, well done on that. And then
they must be like, Dad, you're so good. You're gonna go. Well, you go through the teenage when they're like,
shut up, Dad.
Shut up. Yeah, and then you'll be their hero again. So, you're a family man as well, which I'm sure is the part that comes first in your life. What does like a typical day look for somebody that exercises for a limit? Are you out training like 4, 5, 6? This is what I imagine, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, or are you very much like depending what you're doing?
Yeah, it's very, very dependent. No, I don't do the long stuff as much anymore, just because I don't want to get injured. I prefer it though. Like I would love to, if I'd rather do 1 7-hour session a week than 7 1-hour sessions.
Yeah.
But it's not sensible, and now with new sort of training science, you should do more, just
consistent,
more frequency, and even if it's lower distance. I try mostly exercise before everyone's up, so up at 5-ish, 5:15. And I try and do about an hour or 90 minutes of something in the morning. So yesterday was on the bike. And then today was just a bit of stretching and a bit of Pilates. And then yesterday I did a run as well for an hour. And then tonight I'm doing a 2-hour trail run-ish. This evening. Yeah, so I try and get the sort of the bulk of my important training in the morning, and then I'll probably do something at lunchtime with Caroline. So, we both work from home, so at lunchtime we'll go out and do something, mostly running together, and then if I can get another session in the late afternoon. It's very rare I do 3 sessions, but if I don't do a lunch one, I'll probably do something in the afternoon as well. Sort of from 5 o'clock on, I try and do nothing. That's kids' time, that's dinner, bath, bed.
Mayhem.
Yeah, all that. And I love it. I love it. Especially now in the summer, we mess around in the garden and that sort of thing. So it's, so that's sort of my day. And then I try and do some, whenever I'm sort of I can, and it's not going to have a knock-on effect on my recovery and my training, I love to go out and just do the long stuff, just jump on the bike 6-7 hours, or go for a trail, fast walk, hike, run, out in Snowdonia. But as I said, it varies really. And then also because I'm doing all three, I'm doing swim, bike and run.
I was wondering if you were still swimming. Do you still do a lot of swimming?
I'm trying. So annoyingly, we don't have the only pool near me is the council pool, and it's in a school. So you either have to swim during 7 till 8, which is like peak kids getting up chaos school run.
Yeah.
Or 9 to 10 at night, which after I've put them to bed, I sort of can't get there in time, really. So I am swimming, but I'm not swimming as much as I want to swim.
Have you ever thought of one of those endless pools?
I'd love one. Yeah, I really would. I would love one. We live on the side of a hill, so actually, I don't know if we could get it into our property because we couldn't get it over the house because the house is on, there's 5 tiers in our property, and the house is on the third one. So I don't know if we would even get it to the back garden over the house.
No, yeah. Great. I'd be a bit scared giving you an endless pool as well, that you'd be like, right, my next challenge, I'm going to be in here for the next 6 months and not go out.
Yeah. No, I would love it. I think I'm also quite spontaneous with my training. I sort of take opportunities when they come. So I'll wake up, so my training plan.
I was going to ask you if you had a plan.
I'll go and get this week for you. Hold on a second. I'm going to have to fold up the top bit because that gives a clue.
Oh, is it a secret?
It's a secret.
Oh, man.
Sorry.
I'm trying to think what it would be.
So my training plan is basically me ticking off what I need to do.
That's just like I have. It's just the tick boxes. I love a tick box.
I do 2 2-hour cycling sessions, 4 1-hour running sessions, 2 1-hour swim sessions, 2 30-minute strength sessions, and 2 30-minute stretching. That's my minimum. That's sort of this will get me through
Gold
the week.
Standard, yeah.
I'll probably do more. I'll definitely do more stretching. I stretch every day pretty much. So I sauna and ice bath every evening when I can. So I'll put the kids to bed. By the time they're asleep, the sauna's on. I then go into sauna for 20 minutes, jump in the ice bath, and then I go to bed, which everyone says, why are you ice bathing before bed? It's just going to make you super hyper. But I love it. Yeah, it's my great. Yeah, and then I do a bit of stretching.
Can you touch your toes?
Oh yeah, easy. I've always been able to. I've got short legs.
Have you?
I've got short legs.
I've got my checklist out to do my mobility, and I was doing. My kids follow this footballer that does all this yoga that he puts out, and so they follow it along. And
he'd be 22 though, won't he? This footballer.
No, he was like, he's American. He's like, I've been needing to do this for ages because now I'm 30. I'm so old, and I was like, oh my God, shut up. I can't touch my toes. I can't. No. My hamstrings are. Yeah.
I'm sure Kipchoge can't touch his toes. That'll do me.
Yeah, well, he's got 6 foot legs, doesn't he? So.
Yeah, Gary, you've got.
Well, I was going to say I'm 5'7", but that's a little bit of a fib. So I've got height's no excuse for me. I can't even touch my toes. 5'6.5". So yeah, that would be awesome. I used to be able to put my legs behind my head, but I think running, like you say, your hamstrings, your face.
Yeah.
Can't do that anymore. We've got a Patreon question. Should we ask Pete's question? We're not too sure how this is going to go, actually. Sean, which experience from earlier in your life do you think has had a greater effect on forming you into the person you are now? Your time working as a coffin polisher, your enlistment in the Royal Navy, or the key role you played in the Bond franchise?
For ages, whenever I would phone something and then I'd be like, Sean Conway, they would go like, Sean Connery? Are you really?
It's the accent as well, with the slight accent, I guess, if you're foreign as well and you heard your accent, they'd be like, book him in.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. Bond, I am basically.
Has anyone booked the wrong Sean? They've turned up and they thought, I thought it was 007.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that used to be the opening gag of a lot of my speeches. So, for those of you who thought you were seeing Sean Connery, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but feel free to leave. Yeah, no, Bond, that would be cool, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It would be cool. You haven't had the call up then for the next movie?
No, I used to work on the Harry Potter films, so that was fun. I was an extra in, you remember that TV show Peep Show?
Yeah.
I was an extra in that once because my friend was the set designer for it. I was disappointed when I worked on the Harry Potter films. I was disappointed not to be asked to be an extra or something in the background because I feel...
You were thinking, I was made for this.
Yeah, or Dumbledore's double or something.
Young Hagrid.
Yeah, Hagrid, yeah. I could have nailed that, I reckon.
It's awesome. What's it like being in that environment, though? Like I did a little bit of tiny TV work. They used to go hot set. I couldn't touch anything. And it was like a real high stress environment. But this is nothing compared to a proper Hollywood movie. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest sort of thing that I was impressed with were just the set designers. They're building football pitch size forests indoors. So you're standing in there and it looks like a forest, it smells like a forest, and you go up to the tree and you knock on it and it's paper mache.
Yeah, it's wild.
Like, whoa. And then they built a lake. I mean, this thing was 30, 40, 50 meters long, 20 meters wide. And I'm looking at it and going, how'd they get so much water in here? And I go up to it and it's painted.
Yeah.
Painted, and they got a smoke machine and laid it really flat along the top so that the smoke just was just hovering along the top of it. It was really incredible. And then just the quality of the acting, so you see sort of Emma and Dan, they're walking through the forest, and in what the director knows is that there's a big dragon coming or whatever. I've never watched the film, so whatever the scary animals are, and he's shouting on a megaphone, and so they're like, right, to your left, a dragon, look scared, and they go and it's so and then it's like, right, 2 more steps. So this is all being shouted over, and they dub in all the sounds afterwards, and it was just incredible, like the way they would do it. And I was working in the stills department, and just so I got to meet them, but very briefly. There's hundreds and hundreds of people on set. But I remember one particular, Daniel Radcliffe coming in studio, and we were doing all the portraits, me and I was just the assistant to the main photographer, Murray Close, doing his 360-degree portraits for his toy. So they were going to make a toy of him holding a wand. So we had to take a photo of every degree as he moved around so that the toy maker could do it. And in between that, he's like, so what have you been up to lately? He's like, I was backstage with the Chili Peppers kids the other week when they did the Hyde Park thing back. I can't remember the year now, 2005, I guess. And then, midway through the set, Flea was like, come on stage, Dan. And he was like, no, I'm too nervous. I'm too embarrassed. Aww. And I'm like, you've led this incredible life already. And he was 15 then,
Goodness.
But mainly the just being on set, seeing that sort of art department making all the incredible things that was mind-blowing, really.
I was a model maker. That was my last time I earned money. And one of the things I used to do, I used to go we worked a bit on in the night garden, so your children might have watched that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Going to the set, and like you say, they had this forest, I think it was just outside of Leamington Spa somewhere, but they turfed it all, and it was just this artificial but magical environment to go on set. And we made some props for it, so very similar to your experience. But yeah, to go there, I remember driving in the night. We had to deliver this big bush where they lived, and we could just see like all the lighting rigs had like lit up this forest from like a mile away. Yeah, totally. I always get a rush. I still, when I think about past life, past kind of career, it always gives me a little rush to thinking about that.
We've digressed to Harry. This is a terrible trait of ours, Sean, is that we we start chatting about something else. Let's pop back in, because I've got a serious sporting question to ask you about. So you've done endurance challenges that are mind blowing to 99.9%. Well, everybody in the population, 105 Ironman triathlons. You swum the length of Britain, the longest triathlon. You've done the fastest cycle across Europe. All these incredible miles, thousands and thousands of miles. Do you have a moment in all of those that is the hardest moment that you can reflect on when you thought, I'm done, this is it, I can't go any further?
So it's sort of yes and no answer on that one, because really the answer is no, because it can't even be a possibility. when you go into these things, there's no plan B. You can't even consider the option of throwing in the towel. Look, you can fail because of injury, and I have. There's a bit on my website called Hiccups, and which is
hiccups.
Yeah, well, you got to reframe them like that because that didn't work out. There will work. I'll do it better next time. So when I go into them, there's just no room for going, oh, this is miserable, I don't want to do it anymore, I'm going to throw in the towel. It's just not an option. And practically, even if it was an option, I'm potentially still in the middle of Russia. It's not like I can go, with the Ironmans it was different because I was coming home every night, but everything else I've done, if I got halfway through that and gone, oh, this is miserable, I'm just not enjoying it, it's too hard, I didn't think it would be this hard, I'm still, as I said, in the middle of nowhere.
Do those thoughts still come in?
No.
And you just,
no.
You're not even, wow.
I train myself to not even have those thoughts. Even from the beginning, there's no plan B. Quitting is not an option. When injury gets thrown into the mix, that's a very different question because, this is my livelihood and this is what I love to do. If I could sustain lifelong injuries, potentially, on some of these. So that's a sort of slightly different question. But if you take injury out of the equation, the pain and the misery and not feeling good and
solitude.
The sleep deprivation. No, the solitudes I've never had an issue with, actually. That bit I'm totally fine with. Yeah, all the other stuff is not enough it's never been enough of a reason to throw in the towel, really. And I think it's important to go in and people try and give you outs, but loads of people, even close friends and family, when I was doing the Ironmans, for example, a close family member said, oh, well, if the full irons, after day 30 or 35, if it's too difficult, will you move to halves and get the half Ironman record, which is less. I don't even know what the half Ironman record, but it's not 105. And I was like, no, definitely not. Like there's no, you can't even have that thought because you'll take it. You'll take it in a moment of weakness, or you'll go, oh well, I'll take the half now, and that's why I also never really celebrate small wins myself personally. Within the team, I think it's important that you acknowledge milestones within a team. So if you're doing something and you're relying on crew and teammates, I think it's important to celebrate small wins to keep the motivation up. But for me personally, I didn't celebrate on the Ironmans, for example, that day 21, I got the British record. Day 62, I got the European record. If I'd celebrated them, I'd have had that win. And then if things went badly a couple of days later, I could have gone like, oh, well, actually, Sean, you got the British record. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
The answer is it's been miserable the whole time. All of them are miserable from day one, really. And if they're not, then I haven't chosen a hard enough challenge. But there's never been even a minuscule sliver of daylight. The room I'm in has no windows or no doors. The only way to get out is to climb out the roof, the skylight.
Is that something you've always had from, you said, oh, I trained that? Or is that something that you've always had when you were younger, that you've had this innate ability?
I think I gave up. I gave up when things got tough when I was younger. Yeah, which is why I never made it as a photographer, because I dreamt of being this amazing National Geographic photographer. And when it didn't work out, what I landed up doing, and it's a slippery slope this, when the hard thing didn't work out, I lowered my ambition to just increase my chance of success. So, well, if I try something easier, I might succeed at that, win, yay. Because your heart's not in it, because you think it's easier, you don't try as hard, inevitably, you don't reach there either. So you lower your ambition again. People say to me, oh, I could never do an ultra, so I think I'm just going to sign up for a 5K. And I'm like, no. That's the wrong attitude. You sign up for the ultra, and you'll do the 5K in the lead up to it. Don't lower the ambition, because if you want to do an ultra, and you go, oh, well, it's too hard, so maybe I've got a half marathon in me, or maybe I've got a 10K in me, I'll do that. So you bin the ultra in your head and you go, right, I'm going for the 10K. But because you think you can do it, you probably don't train as hard, and then you get to the 10K and you blow and you injure your knee and you don't, and then you're like, well, you've messed that up as well, haven't you? Whereas if you sign up for the ultra, you take everything way more seriously, you do the training plan because you know you have to, and suddenly you're doing 10K without thinking about it, right? So that's always been, it's through experience, and experience is, if I go back to the 10.5 pillars, experience is one of those pillars there. You gain that experience with as you push yourself. In my teens, I was very good at it. I was very ambitious, and it was sort of the end goal or nothing. And then in my 20s, I just lost my way a little bit in my ambition. As I said, I landed up reducing my ambition to increase my success rate. That didn't really work. So then when I turned 30 and sold my business for £1 and was like, I just need to try do hard stuff again, I had that as a way of not to do it. So
I'm not going back here again.
Yeah, it now it's how I frame everything. You go for the really, really, really hard stuff. I'd much rather fail 100 times over at trying to do the really, really difficult thing than succeed at doing something mediocre. At 100%, definitely. So that's come with experience. And also, people say, you started sport quite late. I was 30 before I did really any sport. I did sport at school, did nothing in my 20s. I had cycled Land's End John O'Groats in my late 20s, but very slowly, 25 days. But then other than that, I really did nothing. Part of me regrets it because I think I've got the mindset and some biological advantage, as in I'm quite short. I'm also 5'7", 5'8". I seem to recover quite quickly. I build muscle quite quickly. I got good power on the bike, especially. I probably could have been like a Cav, maybe not as good as him, but I could have been a sprinter, weirdly. So although I'm doing ultra endurance, biologically, I have really good 30-second power. Even if I don't train for ages, my 30-second power is pretty good. I do sort of go, I wish I'd found sport earlier. But then the reason
where you are now.
Oh, definitely not, because the fuel,
your
every
knees
time.
would have gone.
Knees would have gone. But the fuel for the fire is, it's a bit miserable. But if I'm not doing this, I'm photographing crying babies because, I'm like, well, I'd rather do this, to be fair.
That is. Do you have a favourite child? Not talking about your children, but do you have a favourite one of all those challenges that you go, I'm not going to tell the others, but you favourite?
No, I mean, I think running's, I find the easiest to do just with time. You can do an hour running, get quite a lot out of it. Cycling I enjoy because you can travel great distances and you see, it's quite varied in what you see. But swimming is the most rewarding and the most therapeutic for me because I'm very happy on my own. I never get lonely and I love just getting into a trance, especially with open water where you don't have the pool to turn around and ruin your sort of your energy. So it's hard to choose. It's hard to choose.
You've shown us that lovely little diagram a couple of times, Sean, with the pillars. We'd be remiss of our jobs if we didn't ask you to dive a bit more deeper into that. I mean, the pillars is a 2-hour conversation on its own, to be fair. But over time, people have often asked me over the last, so I've been doing this for 15 years. People have always said, but how are you able to achieve XYZ? And I want to be able to achieve XYZ in the physical space, whether it's running a marathon, probably a marathon and up. I mean, this will definitely help on anything.
It always does, always.
However, it's definitely the longer stuff is where you really have to focus on this more. The shorter stuff, you can sort of wing it a little bit. The longer it gets, the more important the 10.5 pillars are, especially once you get into multi-day things. So pillar number 1 is planning. What's your planning? You look at everything, mostly weather for me, if it's multi-day stuff, weather, road conditions, wind directions, political landscapes, is it a war zone, the equipment's in there, but you start within the planning working on roughly what equipment you might need. But certainly what you need to look at, mainly, route direction, weather, things like that for planning. Temperature, is it going to be hot, is it going to be cold, that sort of thing. The second one is equipment. I never used to have equipment in it. Equipment, because I felt having equipment in made people think that they needed the best equipment, which is definitely not true. You can get to 90% of the way with anything. Any shoes, any bike, you'll get to a very high level, more than you think. Yes, equipment then does matter. And also you need the appropriate equipment. If you're doing something in the desert, you're going to have very different equipment compared to if you're doing something in the Arctic, right? So equipment is there, choosing the appropriate equipment, but please, I can't stress enough, you don't need the best kit in the world.
Well, Dan Lawson broke the LeJog record on second-hand trainers
shoes.
That he pulled out of. They like a nice colour.
Holes in the toes, you sew them up. It's amazing. Exactly. When I did my world's longest triathlon, I did it on a bamboo bicycle. The front wheel was 10 centimeters off to the right. The seat post was 3 centimeters off to the left. As I said, really don't let equipment be the reason you don't start. So yeah, that's equipment. Experience, that's a big one. And it's amazing how much we forget how much we know. I'm really surprised. Even I'll do something and then I'll be like, whoa, Sean, actually you did it this way 10 years ago and it worked really well. You're trying to reinvent the wheel, or you've forgotten about it. So with experience, I always write 2 lists. What experience I have that I think will help me to achieve the thing, and what experience I'm lacking. What are you lacking? Maybe you're lacking a bit of nutrition experience. Maybe you're lacking gut absorption of fat and carbs experience, and that just takes training. Maybe it's map reading, maybe it's sleep deprivation, whatever. You write 2 columns and you try and work on it. Fitness and conditioning, you've got hard tissue, soft tissue, cardio. What does that look like? Certain things need more than the others. So on my thing, cardio is pretty much irrelevant. So I need really conditioned. I need conditioned hard tissue, conditioned soft tissue, so that I'm not getting injured and I can sustain it. Cardio comes into it a little bit, but really once you get that conditioning and you build it up, the cardio comes with it, really. And then fitness, if you're running based challenge, it's more fitness and strength. If it's cycling, it's more strength and fitness, as a loose term, of course. Then the next pillar is nutrition and hydration, messing around with that. How much salt do you lose? How much liquid do you lose at certain temperatures? How can you get the food? If you're self-supported, where you're going to buy the food and the water, how are you going to carry it? If you're running, if you're cycling, how many liters do you need? When I cycled across Australia during my round the world, I think I was drinking 15 liters a day. You can only carry about 5 or 6, so I landed up having a 3-liter water bottle, and I'd wave drivers down and give them this bottle and say, can you leave this 100 k's ahead for me, please? And they were more than happy to
clear
do it.
Clear liquid only.
Yeah, exactly. We left you some Lucozade, mate. Oh, brilliant. So working on that. Then there's recovery. That's the next pillar. What does recovery look like? So recovery is active recovery, actual rest, and sleep. Sleep is in there as well. And what do all those things mean? Muscle management is muscle manipulation, stretching, ice baths, physio, anything that'll help you. As you get older, you need to do a bit more of that. Is it Pilates? Is it yoga? You need to nail the muscle management side of things, because again, and this is why older people are better at endurance, because they're actually really just more experienced at the muscle management. I always have right knee issues. My femur is longer on one leg and shorter on the other, and then the what's the one below the femur? Anyway, the other one is the reverse on the other way around. So my legs are the same length, but my knees are at different heights. So I always have right knee issues. When I first got them, when I was 30, when I did something long in my early 30s, I stopped. Actually, I was like, right, I'm too injured. I got I think I was trying to run a marathon, with my mate just in London. And after like 15, 20 miles, I was like, I'm knee injury is done. Whereas now I know, actually, if I stretch my quad and get right up into my hip with a tennis ball, it sort of releases that strain, and then I can carry on. And sometimes I have to do it like every 15 minutes, which is annoying. But I eventually get over that. So again, that muscle management allowed me to continue with experience, right? Then the next pillar is health. You really just need to stay healthy. If you get ill, and what are you going to do to limit that? I mean, luckily COVID brought in the fist pump, so everyone's sort of like, when I did my Ironmans, going out for a fist pump with someone, everyone's kind of cool. Before COVID, it was weird, wasn't it? For like, you go to a running race and you just no one did it, right? So no handshakes, for example. If the kids were sick, for example, during the Ironmans, to try and limit my time with them, or wear a mask. Within the nutrition column, you've got energy, recovery, and health within that. So what nutrition are you eating for energy to make you go? What nutrition are you eating to recover at the end? And what nutrition are you eating to stay healthy, which you often forget, because especially on the multi-day stuff, you still need all your micros and macros and antioxidants and vitamins and all that sort of thing. So yeah, health is part of that. Then the next pillar is mindset, mindset, motivation. What's your motivation? What's your drive? And how are you going to keep that motivation and mindset when things are miserable? And I call them dangling carrots. You dangle these carrots, right? You got to dangle as many carrots as you can, so that when it's miserable, you can look up and go, oh, I still want that carrot. And that could be extrinsic or intrinsic. I don't really care. I'm not one of these people. I mean, it's easier if you're not wanting all the glory. If it's just real self-belief, that's great. But It can be raising money for charity. It can be just having a cool pub story. It can be, in my case, trying to show my teenage boys that I'm a cool dad, which is a waste of time, I've been told. But, whatever those reasons are, just have as many. You want to be able to look, when you're miserable, you want to be able to look up and see as many little carrots dangling to keep you moving forward, and actively put those in place. Also, tell your friends. Do the website. I said earlier that buying the best equipment in the world will not help you. However, if you spent $5,000 on a bicycle, you might actually cycle more because you've invested in it, right? You've invested the money in buying this amazing bike and you love it and it looks pretty and you want to get out on it. So if that's works for you, I'm not here to judge. If you've invested that time and you've got skin in the game, suddenly you're going to go, right, I'm going to do it now. So what is that all about? Then the 10th pillar is community. And within community, you sort of have 3 types of people within your community. You have literal face-to-face friends and family. Then you have the people who sort of help you. And these are talking like coaches. So these people actually literally physically helping you. So coaches, crew, nutritionists, physios, all that sort of thing. And then you've got your online community. So there's 3 types of community. They all have different roles. You've got your friends and family, you've got the people who actually help you, and then the online community is just as important, because you're spreading a message and getting that out there and people are coming to join you, whether it's physically or virtually, and that's great. So you've got the community, so that's one of the pillars. And then the point 5.
What is it? I've been thinking, what are you doing with the point 5? Where's this going?
The point 5 is luck. Sometimes you just get lucky or unlucky. Sometimes you'll just roll an ankle. But experience would have maybe helped with that. I'm choosing if you rolled an ankle running downhill too fast, maybe it was slightly lack of experience, but also you can just get unlucky, right? Bad weather, road conditions. There's times where I've cycled somewhere and looked at Google Street View and the road was amazing and the tar was brilliant. I get there and they were doing roadworks and there's potholes everywhere and they dug the surface up, right? And that will slow your time down, especially when I was cycling across Europe, for example. I'd look ahead. If I had 2 options of roads, which wasn't, there's far fewer options when you're cycling 4,000 miles across Europe, you think, oh my God, there's just a myriad of roads. But really, there's far fewer than you think. Because once you make that first decision of northerly route or southerly route way back in Spain, the knock-on effect, it means you're on one route. But every now and then, I go on Google Street View and be like, oh, that's got a hard shoulder, that one doesn't, I'll choose the hard shoulder one. And then I'd get there and literally the photo was taken 10 years ago and now it's rubbish and there's glass everywhere and there's potholes. So my mileage, of course, took a hit. And when you're breaking those speed records, those self-supported multi-day speed records, you are trying to steal minutes here and there. So if my average went from 17, 18 miles an hour down to 15 miles an hour, could be the end of it, really. So you're hustling for minutes on that sort of thing. So as I said, sometimes you just get a bit unlucky. So, those are the 10.5. If anyone's got a challenge, the longer the challenge, the more important it is you nail all of these every single day, because something shorter, like a marathon, you could probably still nail it. You wouldn't be as good, but you'll still get by. I know people who've, say run a marathon on rubbish equipment. The Crocs marathon just got broken, didn't it? 2.5 hours or something stupid.
A lot of them are just common sense. And also, if you don't apply them, then you are, if you go to bed late, you're drinking alcohol, you're eating terribly, then if you've got a big scary goal, that's so much like self-sabotage. And then it doesn't come down to luck. You've just really neglected the preparation.
Yeah, 100%. But you got to balance it because sometimes that might help the mindset. Yeah. So
I love the jeopardy. Yeah. And when you're going for a big goal, you do have to make that call. Do I go sprinting off a mountain and potentially put DOMs into your legs for later on the race? But then if you're too careful, you might not hit the target. It's a real balancing act. I love it.
Yeah, and that's where the experience comes in. You know how to push it. You're working on heart rates and power and speed and feeling. How have you slept 2 days before? What's your nutrition intake? What's going to be like? How hot is it? How much salt you're going to lose? How much nutrition and hydration do you need? If you carry too much hydration, especially, you're going to be slower. There's so many elements. I love it. But that's why I prefer the really long things, because
the planning is the best bit.
It's everything, you know. It's
a
everything.
chase. I love it. I love the chase.
Yeah, and it's not just look how fit I am, but it's not all about that. It's probably 30% fitness. The rest of it is the logistics, the experience, the planning, the trying to work out. You know, when I cycled across Europe, I'd get, especially on a Sunday. Sundays were the worst because I might get to a town at maybe 9 o'clock on a Saturday and everything's closed, other than maybe a few restaurants. But I need to run it. Let's say everything's closed in Spain on a Saturday at 9 o'clock. Or let's say 10 o'clock. I get there at 10 o'clock. But I know tomorrow's Sunday and nothing's going to be open until 10. So now I've got 12 hours to think about where I've missed getting food now already.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get food until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. What am I going to do? I've messed that up. I should have known that already. I should have known that I was going to arrive at this last feed station after things are closed. So I should have stocked up on food and water at 4 o'clock in the town before it to last me, knowing that I'd missed that town and I'd have to cycle through. I'm still sleeping, of course. So I'm cycling through to about 10, 11 o'clock at night, sleeping for 4 or 5 hours, getting up in the morning, and I need enough food and water to survive into Sunday morning. So you're always working sort of 2 days back. You know, you're working 2 days in advance. You know, today I'm thinking, right, well, I need this much food and water. These are my stops. I'm probably going to miss getting that last stop, so I need to fill up now. This will take me through to tomorrow. And then just hope that actually you don't have a tailwind. Because I've had that before where I'm like, brilliant. Okay, this is my plan. It's worked out perfectly. I'm going to run out of food at about 8 a.m. But by the time I get there at 10 a.m., job done. And then I end up getting a tailwind. Get to the town at 8 a.m. on a Sunday that I need to refuel. I've now run out of food and water, but nothing's open for another 2 hours. I'm like, oh, what's the point now? You know, so, and I now definitely can't carry on because the next town is 3 hours away and I've got nothing. It's just all these little elements, which I love. I thrive on them. You know, when I'm going, you know, I've got my I'm on my aero bars. Let's say we're on the bike. My phone is literally in between my face, and I'm, you know, as long as the road's good and there's not too much traffic, I'm, you know, Googling places. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Googling where I can get food, looking at the maps and that sort of thing. I remember once, where was I? I was in America, and I'm cycling along. People are driving past me, going like, "There's a tornado coming! Haul your ass to safety, man!" And they just left me. Yeah, and I'm like,
and they left you.
Yeah, left me. And I'm like, a lift maybe. Yeah. But anyway, so now I'm like going along, and I'm like, right, well, I need to check whether this tornado stuff's real, right? So I didn't.
Don't type in Twisters, the film.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, actually, so now my phone was actually in my hand, so I'm literally on the aero bars. And I'm Googling something, and then I was just so in my zone of like, where are these tornadoes? And I'm zooming on the weather maps, and suddenly, like a light flashed, I looked to my left, and it was a cop car, and the guy was driving next to me, looking at me, and he's like, "You are breaking all the laws, mate." And I was like, "Oh," so I'm cycling on a road probably shouldn't be cycling on during a tornado on my phone. So he's like, "Can you pull over, please?" I was like, "Oh no, here we go." Right,
have you got a bike rack?
Yeah. And to be fair, the police car was amazing. It's like, you know what? I just wanted to say there is a tornado coming. If you want, I can give you a lift to the nearest town. It's 1 mile away to safety. And I said, well, actually, I'm part of this round the world race. I'm not really allowed a lift. Will I make it there in time? It'll probably take me about 5 minutes.
Have you seen my 30-second power?
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen my 30-second power? I'll be there. And then I made it into town. But yeah, I like that sort of. I like that element of it. And then again, it comes into community. You know, community is one of those pillars. You know, I remember during that getting chased by those tornadoes in America, you know, everyone was tweeting me going like, because I had a live tracker. They're like, right, Sean, there's going to be a touchdown right behind you, so you really need to gun it. But then there's going to be another tornado coming ahead of you. So what you need to do is you need to stop and wait for an hour for that one to pass. And this is all because people. I remember the guy Ian Homer, Ian from 15 years ago, 12, 13 years ago. You know, he was messaging me because he was looking on his computer where you can see it better. And it was great, you know, so the community aspect, the online community helped me not getting smothered by a tornado in Oklahoma. So thanks, everyone.
So many of those pillars are like, yes. And then when you were talking about, well, you didn't do it, so much of it then when it goes wrong is your fault and it's facing up to like actually, this was in my control. So much of it is in your control when you go. When it came to that moment of making that decision, pushing on, knowing the cohort will be open or being too slow, like it is so, and it's where we really struggle, I think, just generally as humans, is it, as going, I made a mistake, and that was just, and nearly always it is down to inexperience. You say, or we're stupid and we do the same things wrong again and again, and we never learn, and we all do that as well.
Yeah, no, and it's hard because you always want to blame someone else, really. I remember when I failed my first attempt at the 105 Ironmans. I hit a pothole while I was trying to get some food out my back pocket, and on the aero bars, I had my hand on the elbow pads instead of the hoods. So when I tried to correct, obviously I had no control of the handlebars. I went straight off into a ditch, head over the handlebars, and my left leg stayed clipped in, and it just did a little sort of the last straw on the camel's back. You know, you're under such high stress and pressure when it comes to that sort of thing. Yeah, I struggled. So I remember thinking, well, after I bailed, I was like, council, I'm going to blame the council for the...
Get your tape measure out.
Yeah. So, that was... but eventually I was like, no, Sean, it was your fault. You shouldn't have had your hands on the hoods, on the elbow pads. You should have had them on the hoods. You could see the pothole. Like, it was one of those long, thin ones where they've dug a trench and they filled it in again, and it's cracked along the edge and the wheel went in it. So eventually I just put my hands up and it's like, you know what? I even actually, there was a few other mistakes I made during that first attempt, which I took ownership of. I put it on YouTube even. I said, look, I made some mistakes. I'm not going to blame anyone else. I should have not hit the pothole. I shouldn't have taken food out at that spot. I should have looked at the road properly. I shouldn't have had my hand on the elbow pads. So again, you know, now I'll never do that again. And I'll always, and I was trying to get a packet of crisps out. And normally, and I've always done this, whenever I buy crisps, so crisps for me, rocket fuel,
source of life, crisps,
fats, carbohydrates,
good feelings,
calories per 100 grams. You know, you get 500 calories per 100 grams. It's amazing. Normally I bite a small hole in the crisps, squeeze the air out, shove it in my back pocket. Means you can get 2 or 3 crisps in your back pocket on the jersey, and most packet of crisps are about 200 calories, and you scrunch them up so they're almost powder, and then you take them out, you open the bottle, pour them in, job done. 200 calories.
Sean, you and I would be very happy on our crisps.
Honestly, it's incredible. I love it. Salt and vinegar, job done. And this time I just, in haste or just fatigue, I just didn't take the air out. So I'm trying to pull this blooming crisps out of my back pocket, and it was, the corners were getting stuck in the corner of my jersey, you know, and I was like, oh. So anyway, there we go. Again, you know, you learn from these things.
Is that a pillar that could be added to your pillars? Is there a reflection?
Well, you've got the experience pillar, so I think it falls under the experience pillar. All that falls under the experience, because you know at the end you write those 2 columns. You know, what experience do I have, which I think will help me? What experience am I lacking, which I need? You need reflection and hindsight wisdom, which is always dangerous. But yeah.
Question from a Patreon, Dave Musgrove, and that brings us actually to the jog challenge nicely. Is Sean aware that a man pushed a wheelbarrow from Land's End to John O'Groats in 1879? And how important does he think it is to come up with a new spin on an established endurance feat? It's called Bob Carlyle, the Victorian influencer. Fantastic.
Right, a couple of thoughts I have on that question. One is I did not know someone had pushed a wheelbarrow. I know someone's pushed a bed and she slept in the bed while she pushed it. So she pushed a bed on wheels, slept in the bed each night, carried on. Someone's hit a golf ball. I know that. My mate skateboarded it. So yeah, but I didn't know the wheelbarrow one. That's quite cool. The coming up with an interesting spin on something. Now that... Why are you coming up on the spin? I think that's the only question I would ask the person who's decided to do it. There's a name for it. It's called the pink helmet syndrome or pink helmet record. So, you know, you go, I'm going to be the fastest person to row the Atlantic wearing a pink helmet. Because
I see.
someone else wore a blue one, for example. Are you doing it because you want more eyes on you to get the clicks or whatever? Or are you, which is sort of fine. Like if it gets you go out and doing something, I'm sort of cool with it. I am a bit anti these whole like really just trying to be sensationalist for the views and the clicks and all that sort of thing, and it's got to a point where real legitimate difficult hard world records no one's really caring about. They're like, whatever. For example, there's a guy swimming around Ireland now. Do you know about it? No, first person ever who's going to be swimming around Ireland. He's on day 11. You know, my point is there's some people doing some really difficult, genuine stuff, and it's sort of getting overshadowed by all these little sensational clickbait-esque stuff, short form media. So I have a bit of an issue with that because I see my kids getting sucked into the short, quick, blah, blah, blah. Oh, that's interesting. That's a bit fun. Blah, blah, blah. Look, it's a pogo stick. And oh, look, it's a space hopper. I still think it's cool that people do that. I think there's a space for it. Definitely. I think, I climbed Kilimanjaro dressed as a penguin. So that was great. I was trying to raise money for the African Wildlife Foundation. I thought that'd be a good PR stunt to raise more money, and it worked. I'm not saying, we shouldn't be pushing a wheelbarrow land St. John roads. We absolutely should be. We should be, doing all the quirky stuff because that's what British people have done for 200 years. Yeah, since this guy pushed the wheelbarrow. So it's brilliant, and I think more people should do it as well. If you're doing it just for the likes on social media, then...
well, you're soon going to be found out. I always think that, Sean. You'll soon be found wanting if you are doing it for that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're just not going to get as much from it as you think you might get. I think. But then if you wouldn't have done it without the social media, then the world is worse off, actually. So really, even if you're doing it for the likes, it's still better that you're doing it because, So there's sort of this. I battle with it in my head. I'm like,
isn't
part of
it
me
just,
is like, everyone's forgetting about the people doing real epic hard stuff.
Yeah, a lot of our sort of community find it galling that people go in underprepared for these challenges, and then the noise that comes out of them is how hard they are, how broken they are, and then but their narrative has been, I didn't train for this, I just went into this, and then there's people investing a lot of money and time with full-time jobs, if they want to do the spine or something like that, and they think, well, hang on, you're appearing, you're being sensationalized, but that's because you didn't put the work in before.
I never understand that. I literally, the bare minimum is I would put the work in to finish an event. If, like you say, luck does come into it, but that is the minimum requirement to get to the end of it. I'd be terrified to stand on the start line and... With
millions of people watching you, and then you're going, I've only done a 10K run and I'm going to do all this.
I do worry sometimes. I say there's I don't know if this is accurate or not, but there's been questions about the hardest geezers journey up New Zealand. There's a dude who's just run across Australia. Then, you push these limits of these challenges, and sometimes you potentially can make the wrong decision just for the likes, the kudos, whatever it is. It's a kind of minefield. Something I'm pleased I'm not part of.
No one's questioning your Swaledale Marathon time.
Nobody's questioning that. But before we get onto the quick five, I suppose we need to talk about your seventh Le Jog. We talked about spin on different challenges. Why go back for the seventh time, and then what did this Le Jog look like?
I can't find anyone who's done Le Jog in more different ways than me. I'd love to meet them. So I've done it 5 different ways. Swim, bike, run, I had the sailing world record, and then driven it, which... Initially, I was like, that doesn't count. But it turns out, apparently it does. I've been told by the Le Jog Federation. So, I've done it 5 different ways. The cycle is the easiest, really. You can it's the cheapest. If you're on a budget, you can do it really cheaply. But I found, weirdly, it's the easiest and cheapest, but people were really still intimidated by it. They're like, it's 1,000 miles. I don't know how, I don't know what to do. I don't have the experience and blah, blah, blah. And I don't have enough mates to do it with. So I've always wanted, since I first did it in 2008, I thought, I should just put on a Le Jog event so that people can just come and join me, who sort of didn't want to do it on their own, wanted to do it with like-minded people. And then when I was like, I'll do it on my own. And then I started researching it. I was like, well, actually, I don't know if I'm skilled enough to put it on all by myself. So I went to a company who does these sort of things, Sportive Breaks. I said, can you do all the logisticy bits? And I'll find some people and let's just have an adventure. And that's what we did. There was 6 of us. Going up, five riders and then a mechanic following us in a van. It was an absolute amazing adventure. 9 days, which is the perfect balance of being difficult but not unrealistic. You're getting in at 5 o'clock in the evening as opposed to 8 o'clock in the evening, and you're getting down, sit down, and have a meal, and you get to meet the people. And these guys are now friends for life, really. And there's a WhatsApp group, and there's still banter on it the whole time. And I was showing off my 30-second power. I was
going to say, you at the front, were you?
Well,
then at the front you were like, guys, just tuck in.
The running joke was every time we saw Roy with his camera, because he would drive ahead, stop, and he'd take a few photos of us. I was like, right, well, that's the sprint stage, right? That's the intermediate sprint. So I was always like, yes. And then every now and then he'd be further up and I wouldn't see him. So all of a sudden I'd be like, and it felt like we were in a little mini peloton, because two of them would be like, right, we've got Sean this time. So they're like, they'd go ahead, and then I'd be sort of dawdling. I'd be like, what? What's going on? And then I'd see Roy. I was like, oh, it's an intermediate sprint, damn it. And then I'd try and get on it. Sometimes I'd catch him, sometimes I wouldn't. But it was great, you know. But I have to, yeah, I'm secretly quite proud of all the times when I sort of really...
You cooked them all. You showed them.
Yeah, I
you
showed them. 1,100 watts, I think I...
Stop it! No,
not my 30-second power, but sort of my peak. And bearing in mind, I'm not really cycle much, so
you okay? Sandbagging. What's your 30-second power? Come on, Sean. You want to tell us? You want to impress us?
I need to have a look now. It probably 800. It's not.
Whoa, Eddie's face. She's impressed.
Mildly, Gary. There was a mild.
Yeah,
7 in it.
Yeah, at the moment, I think I'd like to get it up. I don't think I'll get it up to 1,000 because I'd be putting on too much
talk through that.
Yeah, well, I just would. I'd be sacrificing a lot of the other stuff. So,
do you use Swift for training, Sean?
I do. I poo-pooed it for years. I was like, just get outside and ride your bike. But I do it for running as well now.
Do you? I can't get on it I've tried, and I'm like, I can't see the point of it. No, have you got a treadmill that does the Zwift, like talks to Zwift?
Yeah. So it talks to Zwift. It's a Bluetooth one. I like it because it just logs my data. Quite well. Go straight to Strava, and I don't have to worry about it. If I do an evening run, and if I have only half an hour, I can get a half an hour between dinner and bedtime usually, and then by the time I've got my shoes on and got out the door and got
it's invaluable, isn't it? My garage gym gets even though I live in one of the most beautiful areas of the country, it gets more action during term time than the hills behind me.
Does it not gamify everything though, like training? Does it always? Because I use Zwift for a very short amount of time, and I know a friend who's got Zwift for running. I think it's free, but I'd be worried I'd just start racing every night.
People are though, they're out.
Yeah, it's fun though. I definitely, if I have a shorter amount of time, I get a much better training session on the turbo. Maybe not on the treadmill. I still think my outdoor running training is more beneficial than the turbo, but on the bike, if I only have 45 minutes, I definitely do a better session, because if I'm outside, you've got the downhills, you're stopping at lights, you've got traffic, you're worried about, you've got road conditions, especially in the winter here in North Wales. It's really hilly where we are.
Well, you never stop pedaling on Zwift, do you?
Yeah, you never stop pedaling.
No.
You're not worried about crashing out and stuff like that. So, no, I love it.
And you can just have your crisps laid out in front of you. You don't need to.
And I'm binge watching Lost. I'm a bit late to the program.
You are. That is some hours to put in. I'm not sure.
I know. Season 1 is 26 episodes of 45 minutes each. I was like, what?
You'll be done in a week with your training, though. You need a new challenge. How much Lost?
I've tried twice with Lost, and I loved it, but then it was just like, wow, this goes on forever and ever and ever.
I know, I love it. Yeah, bring it on. I've just started.
He's up shot. He can't back out now. It's one of his pillars. He's committed. He cannot back out. I've Lost.
I know. Caroline, she got so bored of me. She's like, I'm starting Yellowstone, because apparently that's quite good.
Oh, it's incredible.
She's like, I'm doing it without you. You've missed the boat. I was like, no, wait for me. She's like, I'm not waiting a year.
No. My husband does the same. He's like, I know, you'll take so long. It'll take us 3 years to watch this. I'm just going to do, he's done Mobland. He's like, I've done it. And it's like a challenge. He's almost like, 20 minutes. I can do 20 minutes in this. Don't come in, kids.
Oh, I'm watching, what is the one I watched yesterday? Gold. This the second, it's about the Brinks-Mat robbery, but it's the second series.
Okay.
10 out of 10 TV. Right. Should we do the quick 5? Actually, Eddie, do you want to do the workout of the week?
Workout of the week. Every week, Sean, we ask our guests for their favourite workout, and then sometimes we adjust it a little bit, and we share it on Facebook, and everybody gets a chance to do Sean Conway's favourite workout. Do you have a go-to favourite session?
Well, that's a different question. The one that I would get other people to do is a different question to the one that I prefer. So I like my favorite workout is just
It's going to be 20 hours on the bike.
Something long, super long. Just like the longest it could be. Just give me, as I said, give me 10 hours, whatever. I'll do that, right?
Okay.
But obviously, put that on Facebook. Everyone's like,
no, our community would be like, oh, sign me up. I did 18 hours. Love it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, so if I had to get someone to do something, I would say, you know what? There's nothing as miserable as a bleep test. Like bleep tests. It's no matter who you are, just bleep tests. I remember. Oh yeah. So yeah, bleep test.
How can we do that? I guess if people were out without the bleep, that we could say
there'll be an app. You can get an app.
There will be an app. Yeah, somebody will do it, Sean. Yeah. When they do, I'm going to tag you in and say somebody's done. Nothing is as well as bleep test, apart from if you're my middle child, who's a typical middle child who goes, I kept going until the teacher stopped it and said the lesson was finished.
That sounds awful. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
We used to do, when I was a PE teacher, and I've always been into my fitness shop. I used to race the kids like at end of term, like who can beat me. And I used to absolutely rinse my. I used to taper for it, Gary. Okay, I might try and find an app as well with a bit of instructions and see if anybody will take. Have you got a record on the beep test?
So I used to do full football pitch or rugby pitch bleep tests.
Oh God!
So you used to run. You run to the 5
and then back and then back, and then this is how we create it. Yes,
and then eventually you're running the full length and back.
Yes.
So and I can't remember the timings, but our coach used to do it. You get those apps as well, like the stuff
beep,
like the Joe Wicks type app where you can fill it out yourself. You give yourself intervals, basically an interval timer.
Basically the worst intervals that you can come up with until your lactate takes over your body.
I don't know if I'm going to do this one,
Sean. 10 minutes. Come on, Gary. You're going to love it.
Well, last week our guest, he was just joy miles, just go for a run, chill out, taking the sunrise. I was all over that.
Too easy.
Okay, quick 5 time. Ooh, when was the last time somebody told you off?
Oh, that's probably my coach. Yeah, my coach for sort of doing too much on the old training.
Sure, your poor coach. I mean, how do they even
Sean, you're just going to get injured. Don't do the long stuff too much. Yeah, I probably got told off there. So.
What's that training platform where your coach gives you the workout, you do a workout, and I think a traffic lights it?
That's where one of Training Peaks. That's where I live, Gary, on Training Peaks.
You were red light. You were red light.
It would be red, Gary.
Too
much.
Yeah, so.
Gosh. I think that's a good telling off. I like that one.
You're going for a long bike ride or a run. You're going to share some miles with somebody from history. It could be dead or alive.
Tommy Godwin, the ultra cyclist Tommy Godwin, not the track cyclist Tommy Godwin. He had the record for the highest annual mileage, called the Hammer, back in wartime, really, 100 years ago. He did 70, I think he did, I'm going to butcher the numbers, but I think it was 75,000 miles in the year.
Wow.
Which is not far off 200 miles a day, every single day for a year. Back in the 30s. Yeah, I'd love to have just cycled with him back then. Yeah, I'm not so bothered about him coming forward. I'd rather go back in time, really, and cycle with Tommy Godwin.
What's his background, though? Is he financially wealthy? Because
I don't remember. I don't remember.
How'd you earn any money?
Well, exactly, yeah.
Maybe he was a postman.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like Scottish postman.
Yeah, you get at least 100 of those done during work hours, yeah. So, yeah, that record's since been broken twice. And Amanda Cocker has the record now of 85,000 miles, I think. Oh, yeah, very impressive.
Signature dish. Eddie and I were famished. We're banging on your door. We've been for a big run. What are you going to rustle us up?
7 hours. 7 hours.
Well, okay. Well, you've thrown in the recovery element now. If you hadn't thrown in the recovery element, and I was just going to do you any old dish, it'd be
no fish though, and no meat ready.
Okay. No meat. Oh, well,
no. You can put the meat in. I'll pick it out.
Well, you can't because it's all meat. the meal I dream about when I'm doing all my records. By the end of it, I'm months in now. I'm just so bored of carbs and fat and stuff. I'm like, just give me a venison steak, cherry tomatoes, and broccoli. Like long stem broccoli. That is my. I'll have that. Or that is my that's all I crave is just, I don't want carbs. And for the Ironmans it's just carbs and I'm downing full fat cream and I'm like, I don't want it. Just give me fresh veg, fresh meat, something without meat in it. I do love, you could do a bean lasagna. I quite like that.
Nice.
So you've got a bit of broad beans there, some lentils to replace the meat.
Because the steak, just the tomatoes and broccoli, I'd probably be a bit sad sitting next to you, and you'd
I
be
think
like,
so.
"It's delicious," and I'd be like,
no, but then you do
Sean,
courgettes.
I'm still a bit hungry.
Still a bit hungry.
Crisps.
I'll give you a lot of those. But sort of like a vegetarian lasagna. I quite like. So you've got all the lentils, beans, red peppers, some courgettes, and then the rest is your classic lasagna with So that I quite like that.
Lasagna.
Just make sure you've cooked it before, not when we come back from the run. Because if you go, Eddie, this is going to be like 90 minutes. I'd be like, I'm not going to be able to talk.
Just get cross.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is there a favourite service station, travel lodge, or an air road? It could be a Premier Inn. When you did the most recent jog.
Oh, that's a good one. You know what? The John O'Groats itself now is amazing compared to when I first did in 2008. There was like the curio shop down by the harbour, another little visitor centre, and then the hotel. I don't know if you've been to John O'Groats. There's this white hotel. It was derelict. It was graffitied, fence around it, and that was it. It was miserable, and it was like, it just was sad. It was sad. Now it's happy. There's a coffee shop there doing independent coffees and little patisseries. There's a distillery now, so you can buy single. There's a full-on distillery there. There's still the curio shops, and then there's a whole random. And there's weirdly a Christmas shop, which was closed, obviously. But
we've got a few Christmas shops around here too.
So random. John O'Groats.
It's a tourist thing.
Shop.
It's a tourist thing, isn't it?
And it's happy now. There's loads of people because part of obviously it's on the North Coast 500 route now, which has made it a fun place, and it was a nice just destination to get to, really. So I was quite surprised because I've not been to John O'Groats in
a couple of weeks.
I know. Well, no, I mean everyone thinks I live there pretty much because you can buy a postcard of me at John O'Groats.
I'm going there not too distant future. I shall buy one and send it to you.
It was pretty run down when I was last there. It must be 30 years ago.
There we go. There's my postcard of me swimming length of Britain. You can get that in the curio shop. Yeah.
You look like, is it Tiger King?
Sean, is there a favourite bit of road? I ran some of Dan Lawson's Le Jog record with him, and I've never been so terrified as running on those A roads. Have you got a bit of road which you like on the Le Jog?
Well, on this route, I got a PB on my Le Jog this time. I took 13 days off my PB. The other times I had loads of panniers. The first time I had 50 kgs of panniers or whatever. The second time I did the coastal version, which was 2,500 miles. So this day, 9. So I was pretty happy with that. But also I did bits of the UK I've not cycled in much. So from Gretna Green, I headed north through the borders to Edinburgh. I've normally always gone Glasgow in that way. Through the borders was incredible. But what I really liked is I've never really done the Cairngorms. When I have done the Cairngorms, I've always done the westerly route, the Pitlochry Aviemore bit. And this time we did the Glen Shee bit, and that
is beautiful.
On the bike, couple of real steep climbs, really quiet traffic wise. I was really surprised how few cars were going up that Glen Shee a bit, and then we almost headed a little bit more because you can't cut through to Aviemore. You sort of land up, which was a bit annoying. At one point, we're going
you have to go all the way round, don't you?
So you go east, almost directly east, and then you head up and then back over sort of the top bit of Aviemore. You don't go into Aviemore, but you're sort of the north of Aviemore and then up to Inverness. So that bit there I really loved because there's very few places in Britain that I've sort of really not been to or don't recognise or have seen from afar. But that bit I've never even driven it. I've actually never even driven it. 2 weeks before that, we did a bike packing route with the boys up the Great Glen Way.
I saw saw you guys do that. It looked like a mission.
Incredible. Yeah, well, it was. But you know what? They nailed it. So the weather was terrible. There was midges. So on day one, Caroline and I, so basically we were on mountain bikes. Each mountain bike was dragging a two-child chariot, and then on the back of the chariot I built a bike rack for the boys. So they had a chariot each, and then their bikes, so they could cycle the flat bits if it was too steep for them. You know, my youngest is only 3; he's got no gears on his bike, so obviously he couldn't get up the hills. But you know what? He was pushing and he was loving it. But if the bits were too steep or was too miserable, we're like, right, you jump in the chariots, bikes on the back, we'll pedal you up. And it was so miserable on day one. We're like, right, you know what? If they're hating this, we don't want to scar them for life. We'll just bail on the thing and we'll go camping, because we had all our camping stuff. But you know what? They absolutely nailed it. They were like, no, we're going on. And then they would push until they were tired, and then they'd get in for like a mile or two, and then they'd be bored. And I want to cycle again. They jumped on it, and it was incredible. So we just did Fort William to Fort Augustus, 55k, I think it was. I think they did 30k of it, maybe 35k of it over 4 days, and it was just an epic little adventure for them, because it's all traffic free.
Yeah.
Most of it is a little bit on road, but you're following the canal, and it was such a great adventure. So yeah, I've got good memories of that now.
Oh, it sounds like the best of times, that does. Yeah. What is your beard regime? Do you have
zero?
Any products?
No, and I get sent them. I get sent all of them. No, nothing. No, I don't know why. Yeah, I got lucky there, I think.
Every week when we share the podcast over on Instagram, we will do an Instagram story, and we give our guests the opportunity to choose the Instagram story music. Yeah, what's it going to be, Sean? Yeah,
you know what? My go-to song when I'm like wanting to like get going and things get me going is the Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Up to Boston. I quite like that. I'm a bit into Irish folk, Irish sort of rock or country as well, and I love a bit of that. I love a good sea shanty and an Irish pub song. But yeah, I think Dropkick Murphys, Shipping Up to Boston. That always makes me run or cycle quicker.
If it's on Instagram, we will do that. Fantastic.
Sean, thank you so much for giving up a lot of your time. Not long enough for you, I'm sure. You'd love to have spent the whole day with us. We look forward to hearing what the next challenge is going to be. When are you going to announce it? Is it in the near?
Probably only next year now. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, so yeah, you have to wait patiently.
We shall wait. Well done on all you do, spreading the word of endurance. We're big fans of that. Keep in touch, and maybe our paths will cross on some A road.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. If you're ever in North Wales, come give me a shout.
I want that lasagna.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll book in. Yeah, I'll give you a week to get all the ingredients in. I'll book in, give you another.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sean.
Yeah,
awesome.
Thanks, Sean.
It's been great. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.